Now that you've had the chance to use the 20/20 of hindsight to deconstruct a regrettable reaction from your past, it's a good time to remember Teddy Roosevelt's insight. It's not the critic who counts, not the one who points out how the doer of deeds stumbles or could have done them better. The credit belongs to the one who's actually in the arena. If you're familiar with self-criticism, then you've been both the one in the arena and the critic commenting from the sidelines. Reviewing past errors is only helpful to the extent that you learn from it. It does more harm than good if you're so focused on insulting and punishing yourself for the failure that you miss out on the education.
Who are you?
I hardly know, sir.
To discover who you are, you have to look. But doing personal research is complicated by the unfortunate but natural tendency to be harshly critical, even insulting to yourself when you attempt to learn from your mistakes. And that's why most people avoid looking. So it's especially important for you, the researcher, to have unconditional positive regard for the soul we are studying, so that you can open your eyes and really explore the cringeworthy reaction in the right column. The nominal cause of this response is listed in the leftmost column of the data sheet as the stimulus. But this nominal stimulus is clearly not the effective cause. Remember our research for the cause of Mimi's perverse reaction. I'm sure you could think of some way to interpret the nominal stimulus that would produce a different reaction. Likewise, there are several possible interpretations of the nominal stimulus in your situation. You've listed a bunch in the middle column. But there are many other plausible interpretations that you haven't listed. Some of these would elicit a very different emotional reaction than the one you experienced. But for the moment, let's focus on the ones you have listed. We're looking for the interpretation that caused the emotional reaction in the right column, not the rational interpretation that might be available to you now. So review the candidates you've written and circle the hottest one. And this is our initial hypothesis for the cause of your unwanted reaction. But there are other plausible interpretations of the nominal stimulus. Some are included in this column, and these are probably self-critical, but many others are not included in your list. Some may be at least as likely as your interpretation that triggered the unhelpful reaction. Where were these other plausible interpretations at the critical moment? And why is it difficult even now to entertain more positive interpretations of that nominal stimulus? I'll venture the following hypothesis. The root cause of your problem is a premise or way of looking at things that biases you to favor the interpretation you circled. The premise works like a polarized lens that filters what you see. Information consistent with that bias is likely to get through, but contradictory information is less likely to get through. For example, Mimi's premise is that men are lying bastards with one thing on their mind. Sometimes that's right, and sometimes it's not. But data consistent with that premise has an easier time registering with Mimi. It's no effort for her to make her case. Examples of unfaithful men have a prominent place in her awareness, and her ready access to confirmatory evidence illustrates the exquisite enigma of consciousness. The distortion is self-confirmatory. She is more certain of her premise than she should be, because it is continually confirmed by the information that gets through her filters. The real challenge of personal research is to see through the soul illusion and access the lens that distorts your perception. So let's see if we can deconstruct your interpretation of the nominal stimulus to identify the premise responsible for your interpretation. So consider the nominal stimulus from the perspective of our collaborative team. Perhaps my perspective as the hero's therapist, or your perspective as the rational observer who has unconditional positive regard for the hero, and his only desire is to promote the hero's goals. From this perspective, propose a plausible interpretation of the nominal stimulus that is either neutral or one that would trigger an emotional reaction that promotes the hero's goals. In the Mimi example, the alternative explanation would be that Jerry stays late at the office in order to be successful at work to please his wife. So why does Mimi favor her interpretation over this one? And the answer to that question is the solution to our puzzle. You may find that the answer is already written as one of the interpretations in the middle column. If so, circle it in a different color pencil. If you have to add an additional line, write it in a new color. Now let's look at the results of our first research trial. I'll use Mimi's data sheet as an example. The idea circled in red is the interpretation responsible for the reaction we're researching on this trial. The idea circled in blue is the prejudice or lens that makes our hero vulnerable to interpretations, such as the one circled in red. It's not that this interpretation is wrong. It might be spot on. And then again, it might be wrong, or more likely something in between. The important thing from the researcher's perspective is to recognize that it's made up. It is the creation of a biological creature with a point of view. Viewing your experiences and reactions from this researcher's perspective allows you to examine cause and effect. And so far, your dispassionate observations have revealed a first draft of the solution to your puzzle. And this knowledge is the indispensable key you can use to extricate yourself from the recurring pattern of unwanted outcomes. Your understanding of yourself and the specific causes of your experiences and reactions will continue to grow as you refine your research in the next video.